All right, welcome to the select meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If there's any conflict of interest, please make it known at the time that you discover it. We have some adjustments to the agenda. We have Nikki Haas here today to talk to us about investments. Whenever you're ready.
Well, I spoke to Joe a couple of years ago about just different avenues you all could look at for your reserves. I'm a financial advisor with Alex Brown and Raymond James. I've been in the business just shy of 30 years. Kind of insane. And I manage money from, you name it, to big 401ks to nonprofits. I help clients manage money, meaning their cash reserves, where they can invest, earn better than simple interest without having to do harm, safe, secure, and get to it anytime. So I spoke to Joe a couple of years ago. I think it was through Shelley introduced us, and just something, just want to throw this out there. And I'm not here to bash the banks. I know this young man behind me, and we're friends. My job as a financial advisor is the client's interest is always first. I work for the client. Period. That's it. And it's always been this way. I'm a fiduciary. Banks have a tendency to work for the bank and the shareholders of the bank. So I can come here, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
You don't, but the banks do.
Yeah, if you could just let him.
Yeah. So I just something that we would offer. And here's the situation. I've run into it a couple of times is, hey, I can offer you this. It's FDIC insured. Right now, it's a premium rate sweep account backed by CDs, treasury bonds, very liquid. You can get to it any time. Minimum deposits on 1,000. It's paying 3.65. Obviously, it's going to change. The Fed, well, they were going to cut in December, but now that's a coin toss. But they're going to cut next spring. So what had happened is, I'll say, okay, well, here's what we can do for you. You get to it, you call me, whatever, you call my assistant. I need X amount. I'm putting in this. I'm taking out this, and I, negotiated some Franklin County, Somerset County, some businesses, and all of a sudden the banks will come in and say, "Oh, we can match that," and I'm like, Then my question is, well, why weren't they offering that to begin with? And it's just kind of a game. They're moving the goalpost anyway. It's just something that like I said, my clients are first. They've always been first. They always will be first. If they do well, I do well in the long run. So it's just another alternative to, and also my feeling is you really should never have everything tied up in one place. Both the banks in town are terrific. They're stable. They're not going to be insolvent or any issues with that. But it's just something to think about. So.
Do you find that many municipalities go this route, or are most of them tied in?
No, most of them go with is it
ICS?
ICS.
Insured cash sweep.
Yeah, that's what most do.
Yeah.
And it's fine. What is it? Do you know what it's paying now?
3.78, I think is what we're
It's
getting.
more than this?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, and for the record, Franklin reached out proactively, said they checked Skowhegan and said, we're gonna give you a better rate.
I don't know how they can be more with
I didn't ask.
crime. They're gonna change.
Well, it's all based, the banks too, I'll say, sorry, they, look at there, for instance, like Skowhegan and Franklin are both non-shareholder banks.
Right,
So they reinvest their dividends either by grants that we give to
right,
Somerville Club and the things we do there, or
right.
invest in their employees. There's no profits that are taken out of the bank. So, but I agree that definitely that can be, more stuff's done in hindsight than proactive.
Right. So,
And this stuff, I mean, they've been mostly with Franklin, I think everything, but I think everything's there. It's been with Franklin for 20 years. So we competed a few times, brought forward, and so I think I always said the same thing you say, Mickey, is that it's better to have two banks. I had two banks when I was at Saddleback. I tell every business you should have two banks in case you piss one off.
You know, many of us are probably not old enough to remember when the early nineties, when banks were collapsing in the state of Maine, all over the country. The state of Maine was no different. I remember when People's Heritage, which is now TD, was just like $1.50 a share. And you held it, you'd done fine.
Nashville.
I mean, it's right.
So, you came up here to tell us what you do.
Yeah.
Are you, is it because you're interested in the next time that this stuff goes out to bid, would you like
Yeah, of course.
to have a shot at?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You all know I lived in Rangeley or lived in Sandy River for 4.5 years. This is home. This will always be home. And
Okay.
most of you all know me. And
All right.
like I said, I've been doing this just shy of 30 years, and you know my reputation speaks for itself.
Okay.
So
I'd like to say that I really think with the size that you guys have of funds with the undesignated funds and everything, you know, $8-9 million, you really should look at some bifurcation there. We've talked about this in the past in front of this board several times. So this is what you need to do for working operating, and this is what you need for reserves for working operating. And this is what you've kind of built up almost a war chest, so to speak. And when I was at Merrill Lynch, I worked with some municipalities. One of them years ago was public record is Wiscasset. Wiscasset, when Maine Yankee came, received a huge influx, and they took it and they built a portfolio in that. And so guys like us would come in and pitch what to be. I mean, you're not going to invest it like I tell my son Jake at 25 to put his in. You're going to make it into it a conservative, but there are some options that you don't have available to you with a traditional bank such as my bank or Franklin. Mickey has a lot of great tools, and maybe James is a good firm. So.
most nonprofits are their financial, their investment policy is going to dictate it's got to be safe, secure, and guaranteed. You can't screw around with it. You can't say, oh, maybe we can just get a little more of this, but we'll take some risk. If you all came to me and said, what do you think? Then I'd say, I'm not touching it. You know, it's just not worth it. It's got to be safe, secure. Here's what you're doing. Here's the term. Here's what you're getting. One of the things I love about this money market, and it's FDIC $3 million insured, is you can get to it anytime. There's no maturity date. There's no, it's not a 6-month CD. It's not a 1-year CD. It's there. That's what it is. You're subject to what, interest rates are. So,
Okay.
But you guys have some monies that are sitting in an account that I would think Mickey could structure you something longer with, whether it's ladders or bond ladders or a couple of different things, because so you can reap some benefits of what's out there. You're not taxable because you're a municipality, so you get some options for growth there. And in addition, if the TIF fund is still more successful, I would argue that one you could invest a little bit more aggressively, because that is for future development in those pieces, and that's what you have to talk about on your investment policy. But I mean, I'd suggest taking a look at some of these other towns that have built up a reserve, or what they do with their reserve policies, because that would give you some insight, some more stuff you could do. And there are a lot of vehicles that they have for that, where you don't necessarily need to have. I don't think we've got anything in this town where all of a sudden you're gonna need to come up with $8 million for write a check. So I mean, you should try to put it in some of those things that allow you some growth, but still have the security.
any questions?
I have one. So what instruments do you have, either of you now, that are paying 1.378?
The only thing that I have right now would be CDs. And I could work for literally nothing, just do it as basically pro bono work. But I'm alarmed by CDs, and I mean, so here's my pecking order of what I'll use for safe and secure. This, my premium rate sweep account, which is FDIC. Then I'll go to bank, CDs, and then I'll use agency government paper, meaning Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Sallie Mae, Federal Farm Credit, agency paper. I'm keeping all of my, and I have a fair amount of cash account, cash clients. I'm keeping no more than 9-month maturities. It makes no sense. We're inverted. So
Right.
It's to go out 2 years would be ridiculous when you get more than 1 year.
Right.
And you can get whipsawed. You can absolutely get burned if interest rates start to
Right.
screw around. And they're, At times, I don't think the Fed is that sure what they're doing.
Do you guys know what inverted yield curve means? Inverted yield curve means it's your short, go ahead.
You're getting paid more for a 1-year CD than you would for a 2-year. That's inverted.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's because people are predicting also too that rates are eventually gonna drop. They've dropped some, but that's one of the factors that plays into it. But inverted yields is outside your normal investing. Normally you have a traditional yield curve, which means if you put it in for a longer period of time,
You get
you get a higher yield rate, but right now that's not the case, so.
Mhm.
You need to have somebody that's keeping an eye on that for you, saying, okay, yeah, 3-year CD right now is a bad move.
touch it. Walk away.
All right. Well, good information. Sam and I know at least over the past few years have talked about different ways of investing, and we'd like to make sure that town people get the best.
And one of the things I can offer is, you get an unvarnished opinion. I don't live in Range, I live in Sandy River. I could say, oh, that looks good, or, maybe you should be careful with that.
Okay.
I'll always be a straight shooter and will never harm, like I said, never harm a client, never would harm Range. Anything like that.
All right. Is it, now I have another question.
Yeah.
Are there minimums to become involved with either of you folks?
So this one, the minimum on our money market is 100,000. So just for future, just so you all know, because full disclosure, I get paid on 100, it doesn't matter if it's 100,000, million, 10 million, 100 million, I get paid 1/10 of 1%. So
10 pips.
10 bips. So on 100,000.
That's good though, because some places don't pay, like when I was at Merrill, anything under 250,000.
Yeah, but I don't get, it's not, $1 million, I get $1,000 a year.
Okay.
So that goes to my grid, that doesn't go to my.
Got
So, but I would be always telling you all what you're getting
Mhm.
and what I get paid.
That's all good information.
All right.
Thank you very much, man.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You bowling tonight, man?
I got one dinner. Thank you.
All right, we have Donna Larson from LK Planning. She's in Zoom with us.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to you tonight about the document that she worked on for us, it's like this. I had requested this, I think this will be helpful for us. The back of the house here to kind of keep track of the items that are in the comprehensive plan. And I think it will be useful to the committee when they meet. And again, this is not intended to be a steering document for them. It's really just kind of jumping off. So some notice to look at when it gets started. So Donna will kind of give you the background on that. I do, even though you have a committee that's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for you, I do want to encourage the board to have an active role in this. These four, the board's background. And you also role in this too. The committee, you should give some guidance to the committee in terms of what are priorities as they move forward. Donna, would you like to take it from there?
John, you.
Yeah, she muted.
Go. Here you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I
Hi, Donna.
can't hear you. I was just sending a message. Joe, it looks like the town of Rangeley is muted. I wonder.
That's
No,
Tracy.
we're not muted here in this room. Tracy's off site. She is muted. Did you hear that?
Who?
Let me send her. Tracy, can you send her a message just letting her know to give her presentation? Please.
I can't hear anything.
It's on her end.
Well, it has to be. Did Tracy hear you, Joe?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear everything. I'm trying to get a message out to her right now.
Thank you, Tracy.
Be calling like the fun part.
So you can see, I'll just do a little bit of talking here, the housing.
Call into the 800 number.
Tracy's communicating with. On the left side is housing, historic resources, economy, so it's broken down by section. So we're broken into group now. When the committee gets together, they take out the priorities that they see and envision you, the board kind of reviewing that after they've looked at it and saying, yeah, we see these as priorities, or maybe you adjust them to something else. One of the things that I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk about this. It's not really on the list here, but in the back of the house here, administratively, Breck and I have talked about tracking this over kind of the lifespan of the document, which is 10 to 12 years. So we've been looking into Microsoft project and looking at how we're going to track it and administer it, on the back end here, so that we can support both the committee and the board in implementing this. We're talking about that. We don't have it built yet, but we're talking about how to do that. So that we're ready once everybody hits the ground running. We can go back to.
I have my captions on. Oh, I have my captions on. It. Do you want me to just go ahead?
Sure. And then Tracy will send a message when.
And I can see the chat too.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Okay. So I'll just start. If
Yeah.
somebody, if you want to interrupt me, I guess the best thing to do is to put something in the chat. And otherwise, I'll just go through and we can do questions on the chat at the end. Okay. Thank you. You have this. I'm just going to highlight a few things from the November 13th memo that I sent. And I think I would say that you're actually entering into the more important part, the more important phase of the comprehensive planning process. And we put together a number of ideas, but the ideas weren't vetted. They need a lot more detail. They need more research. They need more data, and they definitely need more public engagement. And so you'll see throughout this document that there's different committees, a lot of different liaisons that you might want to think about to attract more people to the process, just so that you get a wide variety of ideas and get different groups represented on these different topics that we're talking about. You, the Board of Selectmen, you're the ones that are overseeing the process. So you're not doing all the nuts and bolts work, but you're delegating. You're telling folks, you're telling committees or people or staff what it is that you want to get accomplished. I'd suggest that you probably ask them to get back to you in a certain amount of time so that things don't linger. But that is your job, is to just oversee it, make sure things are happening. We have, and I know you're in the process of putting together the committee, and that committee will be updating the Chapter 38, the amendments to Chapter 38. That's going to go through the housing chapter, the historic resources chapter, the economy, the natural resources. It runs through the document. Another thing that the plan suggests is when you start doing affordable housing, and you want to preserve that affordability, someone needs to be overseeing who's living there, making sure that they meet the income guidelines that you have. Whatever you've set up, you want to make sure that you have someone designated to oversee that. And so there's a couple ways you could go about that. One would be to develop a housing authority, and we talked about that. The other would be to have a nonprofit organization. So in addition to just overseeing who's moving in and whether or not they meet the qualifications. And if you want to start talking about other projects and getting grants and doing, I mean, you might want to do housing rehab. There's so many different pieces to housing. It's not just building new, it's taking care of what you have, it's ADUs. So the other option is to have a nonprofit organization. They have different functions. A housing authority is able to accept federal funding. However, the town is also. A nonprofit organization, on the other hand, can also accept private donations. They can accept grants. My take on it is that maybe a nonprofit organization would be better for Rangeley. If there's some philanthropy that might be involved with getting affordable housing projects done, or to be able to accept grants from, say, the Northern Borders, you want to be able to take advantage of that. If you have someone dedicated, a nonprofit or a housing authority dedicated to that, you're probably going to get more housing done, because housing is its own animal. It's got its own language. It's when you're dealing with affordable housing, you're dealing with regular market rate housing, then we know how to do that. Affordable housing, it's very different. So that's something that I think you should consider developing. One of the things I think you need is a site plan review process. And you need a process that has standards, but it also it has applicability. Who and what projects does this apply to? It also it lays out the process, and it lays out the standards. And the standards, for the most part, are those that would be included in the natural resources, because in addition to hearing about needing more housing, we also heard loud and clearly that people want to protect the natural resources. So you want to have that site plan review process in place to be able to handle the development pressures that you're experiencing now. I've also suggested that you set up a reserve account to purchase land. I did see in the Highlander today that that you did recently purchase an adjacent piece of property. I think it's a good thing to have. You might not want to put a whole lot of money in it, but having some sort of reserve account, it doesn't hurt. Again, we have more Chapter 38 for the economy and for historic resources. Maybe you want to bring back the Rangeley Economic Opportunity Committee. That's always an option there if a project comes up, or if you need to get something, get input on something specific. And again, another liaison. Now these liaisons could be volunteers, they could be staff people. And when I look at Rangeley's demographics, looks like you have a fairly substantial population of retired folks, and maybe you could tap into some of that and get them to go to different meetings, to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings, get more involved in UMF, different land trusts. There's so many things going on, and for Joe or other staff people to be able to attend that is difficult. But if you have someone out there representing Rangeley's interests, sometimes you can find out about funding that might become available. Something to think about. The other thing is the impact fee ordinance. You have it in place. I think that you're leaving a fair amount of money on the table, with all, especially with all of the second home construction that's happening. You want to make sure that you keep some sort of exemption for, you can either do it in bedrooms or square footage, so that a typical house isn't subject to that, an affordable house isn't subject to that, but that the larger, once you get over a certain size, then they are subject to that. And that would be a way to get a new revenue source. It's been on the books for a long time. What I didn't see, and what you have to do with impact fees, is you have to have a formula, and your formula has to be right there. You have to be able to justify the fee that you are charging. Always think about impact fees in terms of capital improvements. They're not for operating costs. And you need to be able to spend them in a fairly short period of time. So you need to know how you're going to do this. But you do have it on the books, and I do think that you would benefit from doing an update on that. And if I were to list priorities, I'd put that fairly high on the list. We also, maybe a building committee to look at some different building studies. We did talk last week at the meeting with all of the plantations about the Community Resilience Partnership. And so that is something that I've recommended here. You're already involved in that, and that's great. So those are just some really quick things. It's getting that committee together to start doing the zoning updates, developing a site plan review process, getting some group to oversee the housing, get some new people involved in the process, get those impact fees together, get your natural resources stuff together. That's a really quick synopsis of what I think you should be looking at. And so I am going to stop there. I guess you'll need to put things in the chat, and I will, if you put
Tracy,
questions in the chat, I'll do the best I can to answer them.
Tracy, let her know we're all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Anybody have any thoughts of what impact fees? I didn't see that come over. Is that fairly common?
It is very common when you do development, yeah, and we actually have it, as Donna said, it already exists. Embodied in one of the ordinances, it needs to be reviewed, updated, and administratively it needs to be used more frequently. So yeah, I think it should be looked at, and I think it'll be helpful to have the committee's, feedback on that.
Yeah, it's a common tool, and you have to think about it, at this point, you're running one full-time code enforcement officer. You're still part-time with Carl helping out, and then are you trying to hire somebody?
We have 2 part-time deputies currently.
Yeah, part-time. So I mean, impact's an easy way to cover that. I think what's important for, especially if you have developers and that, but I mean, you guys are doing 110, 120 permits plus a year right now. I mean, you don't need to make the thing crazy price, but at least try to make it so you're revenue neutral on your on that department. I think you could do that pretty easily, and then it's important that developers also understand that when they're looking at stuff. Someone's gonna come into a subdivision, they understand what the fees are. They can build it into it.
Right. And
But
develop-
people get upset when it gets dropped on them at the last minute.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you're up front with that, and I know they just changed the sewer hookup, I think, or
Yep.
that got changed and everyone knew that was coming.
Yep.
And made those things. I don't think it's some unreasonable part. I used to charge those to Saddleback. You wanna hook into the water, the infrastructure that's there, you've gotta pay a hookup. And you also control the vendor that's hooking it up, so you don't have a problem with contaminating your system.
Guess I just was trying to get a general idea of those impact fees, what they would be considered, compiled of. And then kind of Chris kind of answered the question a little bit, but then as you start to implement these fees, what does it do to the region instead? Like, do you start to push development further out of our control area? Because so you, obviously it's due to fee or the fees or whatever that becomes, do you start to, people start to see that and be like, I want to be further out than I do in town and still utilize the same facilities? I'm just trying to educate myself.
Sure, I can speak a little bit to that on the sense that. We focused a lot with the zoning on this time with the comp plan and some suggestions. Where you already have sewer, where you already have water, allow some higher density there. And when you do that stuff in your structure and your density bonus, that you can determine on how you charge for the product. For the project in those pieces.
Yeah, because if you're allowing people to build where they couldn't build before, closer, then to have that opportunity, then you pay the fee.
So I would actually change the name of it and not call it impact fee, because it sounds like impact fee kind of has a negative feel. I do it as capital investment fee. We've already, as a community, made significant capital investments in our sewer system, our water system, our road system, all of that there. We're asking, you chose this community where you wanted to build your project and do your pieces, that we're asking for you to make a capital contribution and upfront that goes into the cost and reserve, what's already been laid out by the municipality.
Yep.
And I think if you did it from that standpoint, I think it's a little bit easier to accept. I mean, they can get out of control of that, so I think you gotta really think about a structure on those pieces. But I think the priority of what needs to be worked on this comp plan to start with is making sure our ordinances jive with the new plan.
Oh, absolutely.
That didn't get done last time. And technically you're supposed to have it done within 18 months of approval. And that was we got approved in September.
Mhm.
So we're a year from March, we should have that dialed in for the most part.
Yep.
We've had lawsuits in this town where the comp plan said one thing and the ordinance says another, and that amount of money there. That's why I think we really get going on that quicker and maybe use some legal help or some heavy lifting on some of those pieces and that part. But obviously the will and pleasure of your thoughts with your ordinance review committee. But from the comp plan side, the sooner we get going on this, the better, because those are the pieces that need to get set in place. And I think we need to look at the zoning pieces sooner than later, get those set in place. Because if we want to try to control with the growth and where things do, we don't get the sprawl or whatever people like to call that. We don't want that to happen. That's where your zoning can offset those things.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Nope, I think having Donna on tonight and getting her initial paperwork in front of us and having people from the committee like you, Chris, speak on it, I think we're doing just what you're talking about. So that's good. All right, moving ahead, we have minutes from boards and committees. Park Commission, public.
Public speaking.
Oh. Well, you got something, Mark?
No, not Mark.
Chris didn't cover it for you?
Too late.
All right.
Mark Overgod, is your last name? First one is, Jim, did you hear anything back about your inquiry?
I did. I talked to Brad. So with the letter that I provided him, he said by going to a 4 rating with the fire department, it lowers the factor in the insurance calculation to a 0.99. If we were to go to a 3, it would drop it to a 0.96. That's a number that the insurance company uses behind the scenes to calculate their premiums and stuff. He couldn't give me anything other than that. He said, you'll see the reduction when your policy renews. So people will start seeing that after the first of the year. My policies don't renew till September and November, so I can't tell you anything other than that. There will be a reduction, he couldn't give me a number or a percentage.
So like a scale 1 to 0, Jimmy, you know?
Yeah,
So is it a 3% savings? Maybe
That's what we
9.9,
find out,
9.6?
we'll find out. So I'm sure somebody else will find out before I do.
So I spoke to Chief Bacon recently, and the 20% that was mentioned, that would be if Rangeley didn't have a single firefighter, a single piece of firefighting apparatus, actually 0 fire department. If you had, a town has no fire department, and then you had one that has the rating that we have now, the difference between not having anything and having what we have now could be as high as 20%. But as far as the reduction from what we were to what we are now, you're probably in the 1 to 2% range with certain insurers, but you would have to, they probably won't volunteer to lower your homeowner's insurance. You'd have to ask them to take another look at that. So that's kind of where that stands.
All right, thank you.
And then the second thing was, last spring, we were getting ready for town meeting. I was trying to see if I remembered right. I think you, Joe, you mentioned that, you were having an amendment made to our TIF that would allow, for municipal buildings or offices, but it wasn't ready for the June town meeting, is that? Were we looking at amending the TIF in any way last year before the town meeting, but didn't have it ready? I was trying to remember what the conversation was, and I couldn't.
I don't know when it was, but there was legislation that changed within the last couple of years that allowed percentage of TIF funds, downtown TIF funds, to be used for administrative buildings. And I think I had written that note to the board at the time saying, this is something you're interested in. There was a particular board member at that time that was interested in looking into it. But I don't ever remember preparing an amendment for that.
You did, oh, we weren't seeking an amendment to
Not that I recall. I don't remember being directed to do that.
Okay, well, thank you. That was the other thing. I couldn't recall until after that.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Trying to skip over my blue check mark on the number 4 happened before it happened. All right, yeah, as I was saying, they have minutes from boards and committees, Park Commission, Haley Pond Ad hoc Committee, and the Planning Board, and our minutes from last month.
Is the motion to approve the Board of Selectmen minutes from the November 3rd meeting?
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Discussion. All those in favor?
Make a motion to approve the liquor license for the Hungry Trout.
Keep abstaining.
Oh,
because he
okay, I
wasn't-
wasn't here.
You can still vote.
Under Robert's rules, you can still.
All right,
No vote.
sorry, I was spacing out. Yes, so yeah.
Second.
So that's unanimous then. Last one. Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Discussion? All those in favor? That motion passes.
Make a motion to approve the liquor license for Moose Alley Operations LLC.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Keith. Discussion? All those in favor? All those abstaining? One abstain, Joe.
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Lester Thomas to the CPIC committee. It doesn't say on here, but we were doing them for 1-year term, 2-year terms? Yeah, 2-year term. Okay.
Mine
perfect.
was like 17 years, right? With the first time.
Second.
Thanks.
Jake.
Motion by Jim, second by
Jake.
Jake.
Awesome.
What did I say?
He said Thomas.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
In my motion to Townsend.
I was waiting for her to do it.
Wow, I'm sorry. Wow, I didn't even catch myself on that. Okay.
All right, where are we at with that? Motion in a second? All right, any discussion? All in favor?
I have one discussion.
Yes, Joe.
Chair. It's not on your agenda tonight, but Tracy and I will. I can't recall the board discussing which board member will be on this committee, so we'll put it on your next agenda. If that's okay with you.
Okay, yeah.
Because I was just reading the bylaws, it does call for one selectman to be on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got an eighth in mind.
Your next agenda will be on.
Didn't we stuff,
Sam and I discussed it.
didn't we stuff Jake in there like we do every time he's on?
Sam volunteered.
Sam volunteered, I heard her.
You got a couple of weeks, well, actually, you only got one.
1 week, yeah, I know. Been rolling.
Let me just do it now.
If you want to be on.
I'm willing to like split it with you if we could do it that way, but
Well, we're all gonna be involved at some.
Yeah.
So-
I'd rather have it on the agenda.
Yeah, yeah, let's wait till then. Okay,
Do we have enough for a quorum at that point?
You, Mr. Chair, you may have enough for quorum after this vote. You will have enough for quorum after this vote.
We're waiting for planning board.
Planning board is still deliberating. The CEO has been voluntold. And you have 3 residents and an ordinance person.
Yeah.
So,
Who's the
You need 4, so yeah.
Who's the third resident?
But you doing the ordinance capacity?
no, it's only 2.
Yeah, it's only
You
2,
gotta
so
make-
we
so you
need one more
resident
resident.
at large, yeah.
okay.
Unless we wanna, if we reenact the CRE, what was it she was just trying to reenact, or the
Economic opportunity.
community economic, and put one of those on it? If that's down the road.
All right.
So
You will have a quorum after this
I
vote.
need one more member of the general public.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we still have a vote on the table, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay, jeez. All right, all those in favor? I thought we already did it. That motion passed. You kept saying it, I was like, didn't we already do that?
Make a motion to appoint the town manager for the Rangeley Lake Snow Machine Grant.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam, discussion? Nope.
Here, just a point of clarification, project manager would be John Lewis. And I would be assigned, yeah.
Okay.
Amend my motion to that word.
Minute second.
I amend my second, sorry.
All in favor? And that motion passes.
I'll make a motion to have the town manager, authorize the town manager to sign the Rangeley Lake Snow Machine Grant.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam, discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, health reimbursement account increase.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention, the out-of-pocket costs along with the premiums, as you'll see later in the agenda, are going up. It has been the town's practice for going on 10 years, so now to pay to a health reimbursement account, the amount of that cost. So for a family plan, it's going up to 2700. And then for a single payer, it's 2350. So currently it's at 4300 and I think 2000. So it's going up. I just would like to have the board recognize that and vote to approve that. So that on January 1st, when this takes effect, we have the record that we were doing that. I am going to attempt to capture this in the personnel policy that I'm working on. I'll be ready on first, which I believe is next Monday in the afternoon, to go through that again, and then you should see that draft soon.
So moved.
I also want to point out at this point, an opportune time for me to let you know that I was looking at the budget the other day, current, and we undershot this amount it lives in the selectmen's budget. I think at the end of the year, it's not going to be catastrophic, but we, in years past, had a carry forward. This last year, we didn't have a leftover in that to carry into this year. So we budgeted 7,000. We spent somewhere, I think, around 5 so far. So it really has to do with what employees do with or health-related events. We don't have access to what that is. They submit it to the third party. We don't know what's what. Some people might use $500. Some people might have a rough year and need to spend all 4,000, we don't really know.
So you won't
Here.
have a number for us until.
No, but we're gonna dial that in, so I just, that wasn't the purpose of bringing this up, but in looking at that, I wanted to disclose to you that we did undershoot it. So there's a chance we'll go over that, and it's likely we'll go up to that particular line at the end of the year. But during budget talks, we'll dial it in, maybe make sure we got a handle on that.
All right.
You had a motion, did you?
So moved, they said, yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Second. Chris?
I just had a question on that. So what does this do, this half of reimbursement? Eric?
So, good question. 8, 9, 10 years ago or so, the town had the Cadillac Maine Municipal Health
Right.
program. Management at that time, actually elected folks, decided, you know, if we step it down a notch, we can save on the premiums that the town pays. And if we make this arrangement, if we do it correctly, if the employee should feel the difference, right? So if the HRA made up the difference, essentially, the town paid that. They didn't do that. Pay the difference.
So the HRA stays in the municipal funds, but you cover the gap if they need that spread from the deductible to.
The health reimbursement account is not, the employees don't get it. They have to qualify for reimbursement for it. So they have $500 of health bills and they have to verify it, and the IRS, the third party double checks it because the IRS, it's an IRS regulation. So they get reimbursed that.
And then the surplus at the end of the year, is that just going to the undesignated fund or
Still,
does it roll over?
It should roll. And we didn't have a balance previously to roll. So that's what happened.
Okay.
So we'll dial that in. It's been a standing practice here of the town. I just want to kind of bring it out into the light of day and talk about it and make sure that you were aware of it and approved of that increase that's set to happen January 1st.
Okay. All right.
It's already been said, but so clearly you can't project based on what people are gonna use. But we could run before. Say worst case scenario based on prior budget to what's projected now. If everything's expended, we will be X over of what we put in for the budget current.
I can get you that.
I mean, I'm just saying like that that number could be that number, which could be worst case scenario. That would be the number that we would blow that line over or increase it. Just put it out there. Just
Chris?
Well, we did it the school budget because Sheila in the old days used to calculate every new position was going to be a family coverage. We'd be these numbers out there, and we finished the audit at the end of the year, and that was an area we had surplus. So we switched and put, like in the school budget, they have $100,000 contingency to cover any of the insurance pieces. So it sounds like you've got something similar here. And then that way it's all set, so it doesn't affect the employees in any way. You know, if somebody comes in, but then your little cost budgets aren't skewed.
Yep.
With that part. So I think if you keep it at the select board level like you got here, that's a smart way to do it. We switched it to that. It saved, made a big difference on the school budget.
excellent.
All right. Anything else? All those in favor? That motion passed. All right. Old business, 50 Pleasant Street, Joe.
So, Mr. Chair, as I had written in the notes to the board, I did reach out to the seller. We had a conversation the next day after their last meeting. She took a week to think about it, then we had another phone conversation, and she's not interested in an escrow for environmental purposes. She's also not interested in an extension. Those are in the notes. I do think after you take public comment here tonight, if there is any, you might want to consider having the executive session at the end to talk about this. It's the same title also for Verizon, so you have 2 separate executive sessions there.
Okay.
Because it is a contract issue. But that's the update on that.
All right.
Title search is in progress. I checked on it this afternoon. I have to report back on that, but you want to consider that when you make your motion later. It's also important to think about that the diligence period ends on the 30th, which is Sunday. So that's public information, something to think about there. I think that's the update.
All right. I'll take public comment on that now, since we're gonna meet later. Chris?
Guys, I don't have a good feeling about this. I understand everybody wants to kind of pick this up. But I spoke with Joe today and no one's been through the building to get an estimate, but no one's been through the building to figure out what asbestos, anything else you've got to move and remediate from. No one from the state's been through to look at the building to do that. There's been no test pits done or anything, even on your own property, in relation to this oil that's leaked out. I mean, I know you got a quote from mainland that seems fairly accurate. I mean, I did the same thing with AI and we were within $1,500 of each other. But I know it checks a lot of boxes for some future stuff there and whatever, but I think the fact they won't extend it any longer and you can't do anything with the environmental, I think you're buying into something that you have no knowledge of how that can go. And I think you look at your vote that came back on that. I did say out in support of it in the forum, not that my vote counts much, but you only had a 3-2 approximately. I think it was 186 to 307. So you had a little over a 3-2 in favor versus not. So your community's already a little mixed on it. And I just think you pick that up, you don't have those numbers quantified. You didn't invest anything in due diligence at this point for that there. You've done a title search, that's $400. I don't know what Freddie's charging you to purchase and sale. That should be about $750, maybe with them it's a couple thousand, but these folks have to disclose whether you buy it or anybody else buys it about the flipped over tank. It's DEP record. It's been brought to their light. They go to sell it. So they're saying they won't extend the contract. I don't see you getting the due diligence done with Thanksgiving on Thursday, get anybody up here to do even a phase 1 or a phase 2. And I think you're going into this thing blind. Now I know, like with Depot Street, I did some research on that after a conversation with Joe. My understanding is Brochu provided the environmental scans and the stuff that had been done there from a couple of people I talked to. So you had a little bit better idea of what you're flying into. You don't know. And whether it went in through the sewer drain line, it went underneath, you know, even if you'd had Buzz, I'd feel even better if you'd had Buzz or somebody gone out there and dug a hole on your side of the property and see if there was any fuel that was down at that level. But none of that's happened. And to me, I would suggest that you put pencils down and say, look, if you can't do an extension so we can do the proper time to do this environmental piece on it, then we're not going to go forward. It looks good at 99,500. It looks good at that part. But what I'm worried about is the extra 100, 150. If that has permeated down through, goes under the tar, goes towards Debs, goes towards Gars, goes towards Franklin, goes all the way down through. You're lucky at the bottom of that hill, it's going to stop because that one's all V-wrapped where the Swain station was. That one's protected, but we're not protected. We don't have a V-wrap on that. We don't have any of that stuff. Now, if you wanted to say, look, we'll close. This is our contingency. There's a lot of environmental things we want to get done. We want to go and get a V-wrap for this property before we close on it. Then I'd be amenable to that. But I don't think it makes sense to me to roll the dice on this. I know we have good coffers and all that stuff there, but we're literally buying a potential environmental problem and it then becomes responsibility of the municipality once you buy it. You can't go back to them afterwards and say, hey, you know, this turned into a little bit more than we want to give it back. They're not going to take it back. It's an estate sale. So please, I implore you to either contingent it upon getting a VRAP that locks in that property so you can have the environmental liability controlled to that property. It's not a big chunk of change, but it is going to cost you some to do it. But then you've quantified and laid out and protected yourself. And I know you say, well, maybe it could just be a parking lot and do that stuff there, but you haven't done any of the due diligence of removing the building and those pieces on what that's gonna cost to ship that out. Is all that gonna have to go to Norwich Walk? Or can you pay a company to come in and remove some of those pieces so that everything can go in the dumpster and go in a regular dump? So to me, if you go to sale, you're on page 9, and I still feel like we're on page 2 on this. And I know a lot of you haven't done a lot of commercial transactions. I've done a lot, and I've seen these things go sideways. So especially in lieu with our citizens, I mean, if you had 500 to 1 vote on whether to purchase it, then maybe a little bit more there. Or if you had a clear understanding of what the environmental impact was, then I might feel better. But I feel like you've got so many unknowns, and we haven't invested any money there. I'd rather you spend $10,000 or $15,000, get a clear idea on the environmental before you close on this thing, than to just once your due diligence is up, you don't have any other way. You've got to buy the property at that point. You're at a point of specific performance. If you do not provide and say, hey, we're going to need this condition met to go forward.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Kind of like Chris kind of got into that whole idea of obviously the environmental impacts, and that oil does concern me. Talking with the sewer guys a little bit more, I mean, that product entered the sewer line. So with a dirt basement, that one either went directly into a sewer drain, which should not be on the ground level. So which means, to me, tells me that there's infiltration. So at the same time that oil went into the pipe and into our sewer line, it obviously probably went around or under that sewer line, which is on the opposite side of Pleasant Street. So you have that ability. You can assume. You obviously can't guarantee, but odds are that oil, residual of that oil, is in the ditch line across the street of Pleasant Street, or on that sewer line, which is where that sewer line runs, on the opposite side of the road of that property. So that just shows you what potentially brings that swath of this needed excavation or potential care for that. So it does concern me, how far we go with that.
Mark.
I was just wondering, I didn't know it was an executive session, but it just made me curious when Joe mentioned it. What aspects of this property would be discussed in executive session that can't be discussed publicly now?
Negotiations, Mr. Chair. There's active negotiations.
What's that?
Negotiation of contracts.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually listed there, the MRSA, acquisition of real property or economic development.
Okay, so it's all to do with the contract. Okay.
It's all to do with negotiations of contract.
Negotiate, okay, well. Keith just shared something before you go into executive session on this. Do you folks want to share, any of you want to share your thoughts about the property?
I would like to. Yeah, I'm listening to you, Mark.
In a what's the word I'm looking for? In the point of being transparent, I think that it is a good purchase for the town. And whether or not, like I've told Chris, if it's ineligible to be built on, then it's better for the town as a green space or a parking lot than going to some other contractor and it being not taken as seriously. So that's where I stand.
Jim?
I kind of echo Sam's comments there. I do have some discussion that I want to have in executive session before I totally make up my mind, but
I think it's a solid purchase, and everybody knows that. I've said it for years, and other board members have as well. Yes, there was a DEP oil spill of some sort. Myself and Al Clinch were on the ground that day. Since I'm hearing from one member of the committee with big concerns being you, Chris. Someone else that was there that day didn't have as big a concerns because they're pretty sure that the oil in question made its way across the road and through the drainage system, probably down to Rangeley Lake, however much it was. This property was offered to us first. I never thought that they were gonna put money into escrow on 99.5. It's a couple of siblings and they want to make some money, I'm sure. And if you're gonna buy a property with a building to tear down and have things that you have to pay for, that there's gonna be more costs. The last thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna reiterate this. Years ago, the property next to it was given to the town free and clear as far as I know. So if you're getting 2 lots for 99.5 plus mitigation costs, I think it's a pretty good deal. Nick?
What year did the flood in the oil tank flip over?
23, I believe. 22.
Okay, so we're 3 years into having a potential hazardous problem in the ground.
Leaching.
Leaching,
Not
leaching,
but,
leaching.
you know,
Whatever it may be.
Okay, which is the unknown. We don't know that as a board right now, as anybody else here. Yes, material has gotten into the dirt, the whole 9 yards. Town of Rangeley has an opportunity to purchase said property and fix it. We don't know. Is it going to cost $10,000? Is it going to cost $200,000? Or is the town to look away and continue to let this be a problem? Other people have said, well, somebody else come in and buy the property, tear it down, and put up a house. Is a young family going to be able to purchase that property, clean the soil if need be, and get permission to actually build on it, if they can even secure funds for that property with the condition that it's in right now? Meaning, my thoughts are, if the town has a chance to fix it, we're going to spend a little money, fix it, or we're guilty of letting that oil sit there and continue to flow down towards our beautiful lake, which we should not allow. Just my opinion. That's all.
Thank you, Jake.
And just now I'm curious. So on the reverse of that, though, knowing is it too late to understanding that potential if somebody did come out, they have to do the same actions, they have to do the repairs, or then we need a mitigation. But at the same route, at what point can you then go back to the property owner and be like, there's an understanding that, granted, it happened 3 years ago, whatever what number it was, but can they go back and have to do the same thing? You have to now investigate that, how far that really went. Is there a limitation on process for them to have to clean that up themselves? Given the Lanta property was the same way, they had to clean up that mess up there.
Right.
So why can't we can't we institute the same rule over here?
I think all of these differing opinions are what you're gonna have to talk through in executive session, because they relate to your strategy for negotiation.
Okay.
These are the things they're gonna talk about, come up with an outcome.
Use that name, I apologize.
No, this was an opportunity for public comment. Mark asked us a question, so we did our best to answer with what our thoughts were. I'll give,
But I think all of those
I'll
things.
give both of you another one. But yeah, as far as the negotiation part and what we're actually gonna do after all this is said, that happens later. Chris?
I hear Jake's point loud and clear about preventing that from being a future problem. I guess I would hope that if you decide to go that way, you're gonna be clear about what the process is gonna be for that, and that you are gonna do the VRAP, and you are gonna remove all the soil, and you're going to do those pieces. Because if that's what you're saying, well, we're gonna be the white knight here and go in and clean up that site and do that, then I understand that. But also, I think that's important, that if that's the route you're gonna go in those pieces, that also gets disclosed to the public. And I think if that was the intent with that there as a Jake's outline, I think personally, I think that should have been in the warrant about that.
Well,
But there,
Jake giving his opinion upon a question asked by a member of the public can't be put in a warrant. Jake just gave his opinion. None of us said it was our same opinion.
okay,
This is, you
That's
asked a
fine.
question, he gave his feelings. Jake
So-
hasn't really spoken much on.
yeah, so that's, so your thoughts are it's a good, that's what you're saying it's a good piece of property. We got the other one for free, so if this one costs 200 grand, we're averaging out okay. That's what
I didn't say if this one costs 200 grand. I said if this one costs us some money for mitigation, those are my words.
Yeah.
Jake's the one that gave a 200 grand figure as an example. I just don't want words being put in my mouth.
No, it's fine. But I don't think you've spent any money to get that clearly figured out. That's my frustration.
No, I hear you.
That, you know, you're gonna go back and if you go ahead with this contract and close the deal before you even gotten done some clear testing on this property to understand the scope. Cause like he says, you know, if it's gone it's gone both directions. You're gonna need, at least I implore you that if you buy this property or before you buy it, you get this VRAP. And if you're not familiar with what a VRAP is, a VRAP gives you indemnification if something 5 years, 10 years, 20 years comes down, and it doesn't come back to sit on you. Because you're not, people you're buying this from, you're gonna zero collectability on that. Normally you'd have an ability to collect on something. That money's gonna go to the wind within 48 hours. So I implore you to do some steps that's gonna mitigate for us here, so we're not talking about this for 5-10 years. It's happened. But to me, I wouldn't go forward unless you've got time, you get time from them to put that in place. Because you want that in place before it is owned by the town. Unless you guys have some kind of an independent LLC that this town owns that you can put it in that protects you. This is now gonna become a liability of the town. And you're all aware of what's on there as the select people that are on this board. You've all acknowledged that. So we're now gonna be in a situation where that turns into a bigger problem. I'm not saying it's gonna be like a quasi, anything like that, but we have to do something. I implore you to do something to mitigate it, because it could be a huge liability for this town. I'd be grateful if it was under 200,000, if it blew up like that.
Thank you, Chris. Mark?
The way this was reported on prior to the vote, in the local newspaper, it seemed to, reflect, I think, what some of the discussion was, that, you folks would have the option to go forward or not go forward, but I think it seemed to imply that this environmental due diligence would be done before you made that decision to go forward or not go forward. So I just throw that out there. And then the one other aspect of it seems a little odd to me was that, you know, it was also put forth that there really weren't any plans. The folks really didn't have any plans for this property. But in a previous selectmen's meeting, when you were discussing whether to put down new flooring in this room or not. Could I finish first?
Yeah, just waiting.
It was mentioned whether you should hold off on doing this flooring until you saw whether the voters approved buying the Pleasant Street property or not. So it leads you to think that there's some kind of relationship between this building and the 50 Pleasant Street property. So that was just something that seemed a little odd to me as well.
Good, Mark. Sam?
It seemed odd to you. For me, as the selectman that we're talking about, was questioning whether or not we wanted to use our funds to save the town money and possibly in some project down the road 2-3 years now. Why is that so curious?
Well, it seemed that because that this building would be related to, why would you want to see what the?
Why would I want
I
to
used to
see?
do that at school at all the time, devil's advocate.
Deadbolts, yeah,
Okay.
you know, like God forbid we have ideas that we're trying to include with you guys we're talking to you guys. There's nothing hidden agenda here. No, there is not a hidden agenda. We are literally just trying to throw out ideas.
That's fine.
All right, let's bring this back a little bit. Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing too. Probably 20 years or so, town select boards have been trying to purchase this property. Nobody's ever had a plan for what they wanted to do. So now all of a sudden, we must have a hidden agenda or something. Or something that we discussed.
We're not transparent enough. We're not.
So whether your place is full or not has something to do with whether the voters approve buying that thing or not. You read into it what you want.
Not hard to do, but thank you.
Okay. All right, we're gonna take that up in executive session. Thank you for all your feedback. It's educated feedback. We're gonna talk about the next item. The Verizon Tower lease.
So nothing new on this, Mr. Chair, except that Verizon is actively reaching out for the follow-ups to talk about it. So they have a team that has been delegated to work on this with folks that they have leases on. It's a company-wide strategy of trying to save money. I think they undershot their the competitiveness of their 5G network, and they're trying to figure out how to make up for that. That's an editorial for me. I don't have facts on that, but I have heard directly from them that this is a strategy that they are using system-wide to try to move away from the old tower type technology, move more towards 5G. That is from them. That is what they said is behind this request. So, this is a negotiating item. Also, whether you take it up tonight or you table it, that's up to you. Depends on how long you want to deliberate. There's no time crunch on this. This rate is in effect until 28. But if you wanted to get a conversation going tonight, give me some thoughts about, what I might do for negotiating, you could do that in session.
All right. But anybody have anything on it for now?
We'll serve that right now.
Phase 2 Quonset Park.
Looking for a little bit of feedback here, Mr. Chair, if there is any. The engineering firm is working on this. I think I'll have a 60% plan set in the next couple of weeks. That's for internal review. One of the biggest questions that I need some feedback on is, I know the Park Commission is talking about this also. Is there an appetite to at least leave room for a skating rink? So, as I understand it, best case scenario for skating rink is 50 by 120. I think right now you could squeeze in 50 by 80 where the playground. I don't have a visual for you. I guess you do have one. So you could squeeze that in there as built without moving the playground back. So if you wanted to have 50 by 100 or a little bit more, we could in a future phase move the existing playground back towards the property line.
What would this look like in the summertime?
So very good question. I tend to envision this being a temporary rink that's there, gets put in this time of year, gets taken out when.
So the kids still have the grass?
Yeah, so green space remains. The only thing I'm a little worried about is winter kill of the grass. But we'll have to figure that out maintenance wise, how to rejuvenate that every year. That's something we probably figure out.
Pretty wet there.
I know. I love the footing for that playground. It is my water table.
So, so obviously in that discussion then for phase 2, what's an alternative? Because to me, if it maintains green space that maybe has to get just drainage put underneath it or restructured, what's a secondary option if we don't utilize the ice rink space? I mean, the space is going to be the space no matter what, right? So it's just a matter of.
It is very good question. The thing that is a little bit dependent on whether you do this or not is lighting. So if we're going to have lighting, and that's a whole other question in another phase. But lighting for a skating rink, as you know, it gets dark this time of year, 4 o'clock. So you're probably going to want some lighting there, and that the placement of it will have to do with where the conduit and the lighting fixtures go. If you in fact want lighting, you may not want.
Okay, so follow that up then, I guess. I think lighting is smart. Obviously, the pond is lit through a private property, but it's still lit, and obviously the town does contribute to that. So would phase 2 of this project put lights anywhere else within this facility? So basketball hoops, tennis court. I don't see any point in having just one facility lit.
So, Mr. Chair, there is discussion in the planning phase here to light all of those items that were just.
I'll just say my thought from when I was the public services director up till now, it maintains the same, is to encourage the use of those facilities. And I think the due diligence of that is to have those lit facilities, much like everything else should be on those timers at 10 o'clock, that things get shut down. But I think if they're fenced and lit, then those kids have a place to go utilize those facilities later in the evening, which I'm sure is kind of in this thing. But
And there's even discussion with the lighting here that it's motion censored to a degree that when it's triggered, the lights come on for a half hour at a time.
it's a great idea.
So they're not on for 6 hours unused or something.
Yeah, the director, Parks and Rec director has a specific type of lighting that he's researched. Yes, that light, dark sky compliant. And if you look at, when you get into the public hearing on this, you'll be able to see that it's very low impact on the rest of the area around it. I mean, you can't even tell from an actual aerial photograph that there's lights. If you're outside of the perimeter of the park, you can't even see the shed.
Would this be something that our workers would install and reinstall, or every year would we have to hire a ring company to come set this thing?
Very good question. I think we can do it internally, but it leads to, and this is where, I kind of want to make sure I disclose this now. We come into probably a manpower question. Wrong word. Personnel question of force. Do we have enough people in the wintertime? Because we all know that when it snows here, people are busy handling snow. Whether that's a volunteer group or whether that is additional, employees, that's something we have to consider.
I mean, the upkeep during the winter.
It's gotta be flooded, it's gotta be treated.
Yeah,
it's
right,
gotta
right.
be shoveled and all that stuff. So it's not just set it and forget it, and then it's gotta be put up, to your point, Mr. Chair, and taken down and stored. And so there are the back end things to consider here.
Just
I'm sorry.
observation, not just discussion. I had a thought in my mind about if we ever fenced anything in, putting like electronic locks so that 10 o'clock at night, you can no longer get in the facilities, and it doesn't allow those kids to ride the bicycles on or whoever's doing it. There's another option, but then you have to get all these cages. But my thought for here was, after the last couple of meetings, I was curious about temporary rinks, and it happened to just probably like everything else spies on you, but it popped up on my phone, and there's like this Easy Rink company out of Canada, and it's a pretty cool little setup. Like the backboards are all poly plastic, like thick metal, not thick, but like preformed plastic panels. It's a great big tarp you stretch out and flatten, and it gets strapped to stakes and everything. And it was like, I think they said setup wise was an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then you just flood it out and they have their own little cart they'd sell you for Zamboni and stuff. But it looked pretty cool, and it looked like relatively easy to set up. So I think rec program volunteer wise, you could have the setup relatively quickly.
I think that's the company Pat got info from, yeah.
Anyway.
Chris.
The tennis or paddleball courts, those don't get used in the winter, do they? We're not maintaining those in the winter. Because the reason I ask is because that side street between Portage and Farmer's Daughter and all that there, your fire trucks go out the other end. If you did your lighting for your cages up there, they could flip the other way in the winter. You only need another set of lights, and you could run right on the paved area and build it there. Then you have no rot there, fairly level. And you got good drainage off of that when it goes time to get it drained out. And then you're gonna spend, it's not as flat as it looks over there. You're gonna spend quite a bit, I think, just trying to get it somewhat graded to be what you need to be there. So we have to look at, because then you can put barriers up on each side and just close that down there. The snowmobiles go around the cages anyways to go to coops to gas up. So I mean, is it gonna take a few people off? I think you have public hearing on it, but then you can have it right there on the pavement. It'd be easy to get it, be easy to set up, be easy to take it down.
Mr. Chair, Chris, are you talking about closing Franklin Street between like Aquastic Grocery and Rangeley Avenue? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
In the winter?
I mean, putting the rink in the road.
putting the rink in the road.
Oh, I thought you meant on ball court. That's what I was thinking.
No,
No, we have an opinion.
I don't think you can do it on the ball court. I think you damage it.
That's what I was wondering.
We have an opinion system.
Okay.
But I would think on the pavement, it might not be a bad thing. I mean, it's similar to like what they do in Boston Common there, they do down at on Atlantic Ave, they have this whole paver area, which is like a sit out place. One of my fraternity friends, one of my buddies used to work in the building there, and in the winter, they just set up the court right there. So it's already got some lighting from what's around there. I was just thinking that would allow you an easy place to do it, an easy place to set up, take it down, and have minimum impact on there. You have a fairly level surface to work from. And I don't know, it's a little outside the box, but
I guess it's worth exploring.
Ideas are ideas. It'd be interesting if we did propose that, see what the hearing would look like from that end of town.
but they're the ones that want an ice skate rink too, right?
I would think so. I mean, I think it's a good idea in itself, just because, I mean, there's a lot of people that live on that end of town off into Bemis, even though that's not Rangeley, you know, and that's a long drive for parents. And it, you know, winter can be fairly boring. You got one extra avenue for kids to be active. I think that part's good in itself.
Yeah.
Key.
Joe, can't remember now, but does phase 2 allow growth of the park into that wet space?
No.
Is that based on environmental needs, or is that based on property?
I believe it was an environmental consideration early on for permitting purposes.
Like wetlands.
Yeah.
I was just kind of, the reason for that was obviously if you did push that, then it changes National Guard Trail also. So just being transparent, that may manipulate, if you went that way, it would manipulate how that trail.
I think we determined early on with the engineer that there wasn't enough usable space there to be worth going in that direction because of the resource. But I think
I always see it as a walking path. If anything, they just have a loop.
that's a possibility.
That's all I was thinking.
Yeah, I think a public hearing would be helpful for the board. I mean, I don't know how soon you want to do it. Obviously, this isn't something you can build this year because you don't really have funds for it. But in terms of planning, you know, if that were a real opportunity, you know, I agree with Chris that would have less impact on the green space. You know, if you're putting it on a paved surface, I mean, that's ideal. I don't know about all the other things. We haven't thought it through, but if you wanted to have a public hearing in December on it, and just kind of bring that idea up in the hearing.
Okay.
And you start your process.
It'd be interesting to see the feedback
Early
on.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out. I just thought it might be easier to do.
Not a bad idea.
Now we got a flat paved surface.
But the neighbors, you know, they may like it or they may be a hard no. You don't know unless you ask.
Imagine the portage would
I was just
Yes.
wondering if if it's a portable seasonal rink, you know, could you put it on the basketball court?
No, you missed that. They didn't recommend that because they thought it would damage the surface.
Don't recommend it on tennis surfaces or basketball.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the lead of the water.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I did miss it, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't spend a lot of time. Well, I think it's safe to say that the board has at least some interest in this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'll pass that along. Does the board want to set a public hearing for this at 5 on the 15th, just to take
Sure.
any comment from the public? It doesn't have to be limited to Chris's idea. It can be limited. It can be broad enough about, you know, the rink in general.
Right.
Public.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Certainly it's up to you,
I like to go rink and lighting. I think lighting is important for both facilities. Like I'm gonna still a little bit further with this conversation, not just Aquasic. Aquasic is in a great direction, but I think eliminating at minimum, from my opinion, the basketball court. I mean, tennis court probably is a good idea too. I hate to limit it to one court, but I envision Rangeley the same way, with basketball court being lit, tennis court if we go that route. But same idea with why not every pavilion down there have a light of some sort, because then it makes everything transparent, so nobody can hide in those.
That's a good concern of mine.
And it allows a later barbecue of a family or something,
I mean,
which maybe it's foolish at summertime,
Right.
9 o'clock is dark anyway.
well, the town, I mean, the park the ordinance is 10 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, it should be usable, and kids should, or whoever should be able to use those courts or whatever facilities until legal time. And we always did. We used to have a street light over the ball court, and we played. And we have a noise ordinance that stops at 10. So if the condo people don't like the basketballs, they can refer to the ordinance.
That's where my thought is with that whole public meeting.
We, We had a lady that showed up at the park commission. You know who that was from Aquasic that asked
Oh,
about?
Chris Wargo.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you want to reach out to her about the public hearing, she might get some support from Aquasic area.
yeah, it'd be good to have. I don't want people in Quasic saying they didn't know.
Yeah, no, that's what I figured.
Because that's who it directly affects, I mean, the most.
So if the board is interested, it would be prudent to both schedule that. That way it'll be a duly called public hearing.
Okay, what's the date?
5 o'clock. I think on the 15th is your second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Keith. Any further discussion? All those in favor? We have a hearing. All right, Quasic boat ramp update.
Oh, I don't remember what that is. There was an email, so there's an email in there, between our engineer and one of the owners of or the DM of the company, just saying there's a couple of punch list items left in the spring. One is a crack seal. So we made, I don't know if we talked about this here yet, a lot of the planks were replaced, as you do know that. The top plank in the plans calls for paving to be flush against the uphill side of that plank. That one had to be removed or was removed and replaced. So the paving that touched it was no longer there. So what the engineer initially asked for was a saw cut to come back up and put new pavement so that the asphalt touched that. There was a proposal from the company, which was a good proposal, that said, you know, if you do that, you're gonna have cracks in your new pavement or saw cuts in your new pavement. It's gonna let water in and so forth. They proposed just putting crack seal in there, which the engineer and I talked about and thought was a pretty good idea. The only thing that we want to watch through the winter, all of us, the company, the engineer and I want to watch the crack seal because it's not quite flush with the pavement and the concrete plank. There's a little depression in there that's water. So we want to keep an eye on that. There also are some excavator track marks on the pavement. Company has recognized that and they are willing to do something to fix that in the spring. It's the wrong time of year. And for a fix, I think it's as simple as heating it up with a turkey burner and smoothing it out. So those are the couple of the things. An update that's not in any of my notes or anything like that is I have received a pay rec. I'm going to go through that. I got it by email. I saw it today the first time. So I'm going to go through that and talk with you about it. There are some contract issues there that are present, so you may want to have a follow-up executive session either your next meeting or probably on the 15th, just because it's a holiday week and I don't know if I can get all that to you prior to Monday. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it, obviously you guys have discussed other options, but is there an option if maybe a fallback if that doesn't get heated out and melted back in? Is there an option to mill and fill from those excavator tracks back to that first plank? Then you have, and that way it's a solid surface. It's not a crack seal. It's not a potential. It's not a potential. It's obviously more expensive, but it would look better. Again, that's my opinion. I don't do it.
And, you know, in fairness, they're not deep gouges, but they were visible. And, you know, I could see them. I didn't expect that. And then I think they meant to do that. You know, they would agreed to do something in the spring. So that's an option. So if Plan A doesn't work out.
Okay. All right, new business. Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust Insurance Increase.
This is an easy one, Mr. Chair. We talked about it earlier. The premiums are going up 9%. But we do that. We know it would be that number, but we but just making you aware of that.
Okay.
No action required.
I don't believe we have any correspondence. Nothing to read into record. Town manager report.
We had the quarterly meeting here. This was, again, this is the identical agenda and the would have had prior to the meeting, but this is a retrospective report of it. We had a great turnout. Excellent turnout. The room was full. Some good input from. We talked about community resilience partnership. Talked about the fire formula. The takeaway from that was there's an interest in having each town or plantation use their Creo, which is our assessment software, get housing reports out of that. I've begun talking with our finance and our treasurer about that today. I think we might try to have again, I'm not guaranteeing this is gonna happen, but we may want to have a kind of a pre-meeting with the clerks to talk about that prior to the meeting in April. So the follow-up meeting hasn't been set in April, but it will be. Where Sandy River has offered to host graciously. Talked about fire and rescue services. There's some interest from some of the plantations in having community training, for lack of a better word, day where folks can learn about fire prevention, maybe basic CPR and those things. And I've already talked to the chief, and he's certainly willing to coordinate one of those or more of those. So it was a good meeting.
Yep.
And we'll meet again sometime in April to talk about the formula and the housing units.
Just really quick as a follow-up to the conversation about waiting until April. I did want to throw out that after we sat down at the table, we kind of came to the consensus that we're all going to be mid-budget. So I'm making the assumption that this funding formula will not be for the 26-27 fiscal year, but the following one. Because we're all going to be mid-budget cycle if we don't come to the table till April.
So I'm gonna think about this for a minute. The budget here in Rangeley, the budget we put together for projected expenses should be close to wrapped up by then. It won't be approved by town meeting until June. Which is, it's after June when we actually do the calculations. It's in July or August.
Right.
I think it could work.
Right, but understanding that, I mean, we all have to budget for those of the surrounding plantations have to budget for whatever's decided on. And if we wait till April to decide on that, it may be too late in the process for some of the surrounding plantations to implement that. That was our only concern. After we sat down and kind of thought through the window and the timelines, right?
Rangeland finishes theirs in March, Rangeland plantation. They're their meeting and everything.
I mean, the only reason we were waiting until April is because we took a straw poll in the audience. I don't think any of this board, I don't think it mattered that much, but everybody seemed happy with April. If you guys come up with a different timeline and want to bring it to everybody else, I'm sure we could figure something out.
No, and it was just an after. I just wanted to mention that there was some afterthought that we need to keep in, that all of us need to consider, is that we're all going to be in budget cycle when some of us already need to know that number.
Yep. Well, if like I said, if you guys think we should reschedule, reach out to Joe and we'll put our heads together.
Yeah, I think recalling the discussion, April was chosen because they would have their latest housing unit stuff done from their tax commitment rolls. And I sent Ethner a text the next day that just mentioned maybe April's late for the formula development and might want to consider some workshops, even you folks among yourselves, and invite them to come just to talk about the ingredients of the formula. And then, in April, they could plug in their housing units or whatever else. But in the meantime, you could kind of figure out, have discussions about, not necessarily figure out, but have discussions about the nuts and bolts of what would comprise funding formula, the different things.
Okay. Chris?
I think the only reason April 1 was picked because that's the day that it legally switches with everybody, the responsibility. They'll have the accurate number for that reset. Everyone has this trio system. You have last year's April 1 numbers. You could use those to plug in to start and then adjust after.
Listen.
A lot of people are going to need.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well,
I think you gotta get the mechanics of your formula.
okay. Well, let's get some stuff lined up, figure out a date with the other plantations and see what's going to work out best for everybody.
In the meantime, Mr. Chair, at least internally, I'm talking with our finance person about The discussion happened the other night and, what metrics might we recommend that, might be in there?
Okay.
And then working with the staff from other places to make sure that we've got a presentation ready for the elected folks. So we'll work on that.
All right. Red sheet?
No major changes there.
Any select board communication? All right, folks, that brings us to number 14.
Entertain a motion to enter an executive session, MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Chapter 1, Section 4056. Acquisition of real property or economic development.
Second.
Jim's motion, same second, discussion. All those in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, folks.
All right, look at the result. Yeah.
I expect action on 50 plus. This particular section.
Do we do anything with that?
Well, state village.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
All right, folks, we are out of executive session at 7:28 PM. After careful deliberation, we're prepared to make a motion.
Make a motion for the town manager to purchase the 50 Pleasant Street property, pending a positive title result and expending up to $6,000 from the contingency of B16 town meeting article for phase 1 of ESA and starting the closing process.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Votes 4-1 in favor.
Make a motion to enter an executive session, Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 405(6) for economic development.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Sam. Discussion.
This one is for the Verizon town.
This is, yep. All those in favor? We are back in executive session.
What was the motion that here?
Let me get them.
I'll get all three. Oh. Somebody has that.
You get this one here.
Oh, was the separation door closed? Is
Yeah.
that what happened?
Yeah.
I figured once those doors open,
Well,
everyone would hear it.
When I went down to get that one, I'm like,
Like this.
You're on.
All right, we are out of executive session at 7:40 PM with no action taken.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Jim to adjourn, second by Keith. All those in favor? We're out. Thank you, folks.